Ah, I'm so pleased to be sharing my Book Week story with you, for my costume was all ready to go, and I can't wait to share this wonderful book with you. This is Gary Paulson's Hatchet. If you're looking for a survivor book, I've got it for you. And if you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. And let me share with you some of this amazing book. And there came hunger. Brian rubbed his stomach. The hunger had been there, but something else. Fear, pain had held it down. Now, with the thought of the burger, the emptiness roared at him. He could not believe the hunger, had never felt it this way. The lake water had filled his stomach, but left it hungry, and now it demanded food, screamed for food. And there was, he thought, absolutely nothing to eat. Nothing. What did they do in the films when they got stranded like this? Oh, yes, the hero usually found some kind of plant that he knew was good to eat, and that took care of it. Just ate the plant until he was full, or used some kind of cute trap to catch an animal and cook it over a slick little fire. And pretty soon he had a full 8-course meal. The trouble, Brian thought, looking around, was that all he could see was grass and brush. There was nothing obvious to eat, and apart from about 1 million birds and the beaver, he hadn't seen animals to trap and cook, and even if he had got one somehow, he didn't have any matches, so he couldn't have a fire. Nothing. It kept coming back to that. He had nothing. Well, almost nothing. As a matter of fact, he thought, I don't know what I've got or I haven't got. Maybe I should try and figure out just how I stand. It will give me something to do, keep me from thinking of food until they come to find me. Brian had once had an English teacher, a guy named Perpich, who was always talking about being positive, thinking positive, staying on top of things. That's how Perpich had put it, stay positive and stay on top of things. Brian thought of him now, wondered how to stay positive and stay on top of this. All Perpich would say is that I have to get motivated. He was always telling kids to get motivated. Brian changed position, so he was sitting on his knees. He reached into his pockets and took out everything he had and laid it on the grass in front of him. It was pitiful enough. A quarter, 3 dimes, a nickel and 2 pennies, a fingernail clipper, a billfold with a $20 bill. This is all American money, by the way. In case you get stranded at the airport in some town and have to buy food, his mother had said, and some old pieces of paper. And on his belt, somehow still there, the hatchet his mother had given him. See, this is what we call a tomahawk, so I use this to split up kindling. But Brian in the bush has a hatchet. And this is why the story is called Hatchet, because this tool is going to help him. It's going to help him save his life in this very, very challenging situation in which he finds himself. He had forgotten it and now reached around and took it out and put it on the grass. There was a touch of rust already forming on the cutting edge of the blade, and he rubbed it off with his thumb. That was it. He frowned. No, wait. If he was going to play the game, he may as well play it right. Perpich would tell him to quit messing around. Get motivated. Look at all of it, Robeson. He had on a pair of good tennis shoes, and now almost dry in socks and jeans and underwear and a thin leather belt and a t-shirt with an anorak. See, this is what they call an anorak in other countries. This is simply a raincoat, we call it here, but it's an anorak. An anorak, so torn it hung on him in tatters. And a watch. He had a digital watch still in his wrist, but it was broken from the crash. The little screen blank, and he took it off and almost threw it away, but stopped the hand motion and lay the watch on the grass with the rest of it. There, that was it. No, wait. One other thing. Those were all the things he had, but he also had himself. Perpich used to drum that into them. You are your most valuable asset. Don't forget that. You are the most valuable thing you have. Brian looked around again. I wish you were here, Perpich. I'm hungry. And I'd trade everything I have for a hamburger. I'm hungry, he said it aloud in normal tones at first, then louder and louder until he was yelling it. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Then he stopped. There was sudden silence. Not just from him, but the clicks and blurps and bird sounds of the forest as well. The noise of his voice had startled everything, and it was quiet. He looked around, listened with his mouth open, and realized that in all his life he had never heard silence before. Complete silence. There had always been some sound, some kind of sound. It lasted only a few seconds, but it was so intense that it seemed to become part of him. Nothing. There was no sound. Then the bird started again. and some kind of buzzing insect, and then a chattering sound and a cawing, and soon there was the same background of sound, which left him still hungry. Of course, he thought, putting the coins and the rest back in his pocket and the hatchet in his belt, of course, if they came tonight, or even if they take as long as tomorrow, the hunger is no big thing. People have gone for many days without food as long as they've got water. Even if they don't come until late tomorrow, I'll be all right. Lose a little weight maybe, but the first hamburger and a milkshake and fries will bring it right back. A mental picture of a hamburger, the way they showed it in the television commercials, thundered into his thoughts, rich colours, the juicy meat and hot. He pushed the picture away. So even if they didn't find him until tomorrow, he thought, he would be all right. He had plenty of water, although he wasn't sure if it was good and clean or not. Well, I'm going to leave this fantastic story there. If you're looking for a great book to read, this story by Gary Paulson Hatchett is one of my personal favourites. So happy book week, everybody.